First, we couple the front pieces. Place the lace over the satin. Attach the side front to the center front. For stability, I would recommend you pin in place. Sew the dart area by 0.5 inch. Make a couple of notches around the dart area. Pop up the bustier area, and this is how one side of the front looks like. In a similar way, place the other side front on the center front. Sew the dart by 0.5 inch. Make a couple of notches once again, and we are done with the main piece. For more structure around the bustier area, insert already made bra cups. Fold the bra cup in half and sew a dart stopping at the bust point. Trim the excess seam allowance. Pop up the bra cup and you would realize the dart intakes helps the bra cup look deeper. Repeat the same process on the other bra cup. The bust point on the bra cup is to be attached at the bust point area of the main fabric as shown. First, trim off the seam allowance around the bustier area of the main fabric, stopping 1 inch before the over bust. Match up the bust point of the bra cup with the main fabric and pin in place. Turn the fabric to the right side and try to stretch the fabric around the bra cup to get the full effect of the bustier structure. When you're done pinning the bra cup in place in different positions, come in with your threaded needle. Tack on the 4 cardinal points of the bra cup. Tacking here first is the under bust. Your stitch should not reflect on the right side of the fabric. Make multiple knots when you are done to keep the stitch secured. Next is the top corner towards the armhole area. It is needful to mention at this juncture that you are tacking only on the wadding fabric. Next is the upper middle area of the bra cup, and finally the other top corner of the bra cup. Take out your pins and repeat the same process on the other bra cup area. Next, we move to the lining piece. One side front has been sewn on the center front. Attach the other side front to the center front. Sew by 0.5 inch as shown. Create notches and the lining piece is ready. Moving on to coupling the back pieces. Once again, attach the side back to the center back. Sew by 0.5 inch. Create notches along the princess dart line to release any tension. Before turning the neckline with the lining piece, attach the main fabric of the upper bodice to the skirt piece. Sew the waistline by 0.5 inch. Start sewing from the center back. Stop 1 inch before the dart line. Continue sewing from the other side seam by 0.5 inch, stopping at the dart point as well. The excess fabric on the skirt block is for the dart. Match this up with the dart on the upper bodice. Properly place the skirt piece on fold on the dart line. The dart length is 5.5 inches. Once you're done sewing the dart, you would realize the dart line of the skirt block and the upper bodice is matching up nicely. Next, close up the space on the waistline. Sew across the dart by 0.5 inch along the waistline. Now come in with the lining piece of the upper bodice. Turn the neckline by 0.5 inch. Create multiple notches along the seam line. Flatten out the neckline. Top stitch the seam allowance towards the lining piece as shown. A quick tip to neatly finish the waistline. Match up the right side of the lining piece with the waist seam. Secure both together by 0.5 inch. Turn the seam inside out. And here you have it, a clean finish. Kindly repeat the same process on the other back piece in coupling the upper bodice to the skirt block. Come in with the belt fabric, place it on fold. The upper area is adjusted from 4 inches to 2.5 inches. Connect from this point towards the middle of the belt. Retrim from the middle of the belt to the top area as shown. Sew the side of the belt by 0.5 inch. Close the bottom area also, sewing by 0.5 inch. Turn the belt inside out. Go ahead to iron press. Here is the wrapper illusion part of the dress. Weave the slanted edge of the satin. The right side of the satin is facing up. Turn the waist area by placing the right side of the lace on the wrong side of the satin. Sew the waistline by 0.5 inch with the help of a fusible web, so when you iron it stays flat and nice. In a similar way, repeat the same process in sewing the hem of the wrapper illusion by 0.5 inch and with a fusible web. Now the top and the bottom has been sewn. The open slanted area will be ironed with a fusible web sandwiched in the middle to keep it in place. We proceed to the cape. Place it on fold, right side on right side. Sew from one end with about 4 inches stitch length and stop. Continue sewing from the other end, meeting up with the initial stitch made. Trim out the excess seam allowance. Sew one end of the cape by 0.5 inch. Trim off the excess seam allowance as well. Turn the cape inside out. Poke out the pointy edges. Bend in 0.5 inch on each other as shown on the other end of the cape and top stitch very close to the fold. Next, sew the sides of the sleeve, place it on fold and sew by 1 inch. Repeat the same process on the other sleeve. After coupling the pieces, it is essential to open press the seam lines of the bustier area of both the main fabric and the lining piece. Here is the center back. Place both pieces together. The zipper stop point is 22 inches. Mark your 1 inch zipper allowance. This line will be a loose stitch. From the waistline, come down by 19 inches to mark the half length of the skirt. Continue marking the 1 inch zipper allowance. From the hem of the skirt, mark 21 inches as your slit length. However, you can stop at the half length of the skirt as your slit stop point. Here I am showing you the open edge of the wrapper has been sealed with the fusible web. To prevent the lace from moving about, you can also seal it down with the fusible web. Go ahead to sew the zipper allowance line. Sew first with a loose stitch, stopping at the hip line. On reaching the 10-inch mark, make a back stitch and sew with a normal stitch, stopping at the slit start point. Make another back stitch. Now both back pieces has been coupled as one. We move over to the front piece. Come in with both yoke pieces. Place the right side of the yoke on the right side of the fabric. Pin in place. Ensure the sides of the yoke and the armhole is aligning properly. Now to sew the overbust area, come in with the lining piece. Ensure the dart lines of the lining piece and that of the main fabric is matching up. With a fusible web once again, sew by 0.5 inch from one end to the other. Make multiple notches along the seam line to release any tension. Turn the fabric to the right side. It is now time to join the shoulders. Place the right side of the front yoke on the right side of the back shoulder. Move upward about 1 inch of the yoke on the side of the neckline, while the side towards the armhole is aligning with the back shoulder. Close these shoulder pieces with the back lining as shown. Sew by 0.5 inch. When you turn to the right side, here's what you have. Here is the wrong side. The tip of pushing the yoke upward by 1 inch keeps it steady. Repeat the same process sewing the other shoulder. Now both yoke has been installed. Go ahead to press down the overbust area. On the half length, seal the lace and the underlining satin with a fusible web to keep it in place. On the waist area of the skirt part, repeat the same process of sealing it and keeping it in place with a fusible web. On the waistline, place the right side of the skirt on the right side of the bodice, excluding the lining. Now go ahead to sew the waist by 0.5 inch from one end to the other. Here is the right side, and flipping to the wrong side, close up the waist seam just like we did at the back to conceal the rough seams. Carefully place the right side of the lining facing the seams as shown. Turn inside out. Sew by 0.5 inch or use the first seam line made as a guide. Turn inside out. The wrong side of the dress is neatly finished, even looking like the right side. Let's move over to the table for a quick demonstration in assembling the other pieces. Remember, the hem of the wrapper has been turned. For the hem of the satin, hem by 1 inch with a fusible web. Also remember, the waistline of the wrapper was increased by 2 inches. It should go above the waist seam line. Place one of the belts beneath the wrapper illusion as shown. Make a firm top stitch. Place the other belt right side on the right side of the fabric above the waistline, sandwiched between the front and the back piece. Before taking the side measurement and sewing down the side seams, I would recommend you match up the fabric and pin them down in place. This helps prevent the fabric from moving about. Hem the back of the lining with a fusible web by 1 inch. After weaving the rough edges of the center back, sew down the slit allowance with a fusible web. Take the sides measurement, the bust divided by 2, the waist divided by 2. Come down by 9 to 10 inches to get your hip line. Mark the hip measurement divided by 2. Mark the knee line from the waistline between 19 to 20 inches. Minus 3 inches from the hip line to get the knee circumference. Share the leftover space by 2. The other half will be placed on the reverse side of the dress. Place same measurement on the knee line on the hem of the dress. Connect with a straight line. Connect 1 inch below the hip line to the knee line. Connect 1 inch above the hip line to the waistline. Then from the waist to the bust. Fold the dress like so. Mark all vertical measurements. Then place the other half earlier mentioned to connect the side shape. We move over to the sewing machine to sew them down in place. Start your stitch 1 inch below the armhole. Follow the highlighted markings and sew all the way to the hem. Here the satin has not been hemmed. This will be done later and the stitch completed. Continue sewing from the other side in the same way, following the highlighted markings all the way to the hem. Turning the dress to the right side, it is time to attach the belt. For a professional look, it is advisable the seam line of the belt is facing down. Tuck in the rough edge of the belt by 0.5 inch. Top stitch down in place very close to the fold. Place the belt behind the wrapper as shown. Tightly top stitch it down in place. For firmness, top stitch again very close to the edge of the wrapper. It is now time to attach the sleeve to the armhole. This is the 1 inch space left below the armhole while sewing the side shape, required as an allowance to sew in the sleeve. Place the right sides of the sleeve into the armhole as shown. It is advisable to match up the sleeve with the armhole. On reaching the sides, match up the side of the sleeve with the side of the armhole. Go ahead to sew round the armhole like a circle with 0.5 inch. Bring out the sleeve from the armhole as shown. You are required to weave the rough edge of the seam, then proceed to sew from the sides of the sleeve, crossing through the armhole into the side of the dress. Place the right side of the zip on the middle line of the center back. The zipper should go below the hip line by 2 to 3 inches. Start sewing with a back stitch from the bottom of the zipper to the neckline on one side. On the other side, start sewing from the neckline all the way to the zipper stop point. Make a back stitch. Remove the initial loose stitch sewn to hold the center back together. Open the zip. Bend backwards the zipper allowance at the top area and lock it down with a top stitch. The zipper is done. Let us attach the cape. The wider hem of the cape is to be attached from the bottom as shown. Place the cape on the center of the bodice with a threaded needle. Start attaching the cape. Start by grabbing the bottom corner of the cape as shown. Secure this part very tightly. We will be making about 2 pleats on the cape. This is quite difficult but possible. Make the first pleat, stitch from behind the cape and pass the needle through to the wrong side of the dress. Continue in this rhythm till the last pleat is done and securely attached. A quick tip is to use a sharp and sizable needle. Try to conceal your stitches as much as you can. When the middle area is complete, follow the drape form or the pleat form towards the under bust through to the side of the dress. Moving slightly to the side away from the under bust, tack the pleats on that spot again. Ensure to follow the form the pleats already made at the middle. At the upper side of the bustier, create another tack to keep the cape in place. Place the cape over the shoulder. make a tack at the shoulder area. These multiple tacks here and there help to keep the cape in place and prevent it from moving about. Make your tacks and pleats on your preferred positions. Moving over to the back of the dress, you are to stop the cape before the zipper. If you find the cape fabric excess, like in this case, fold in the extra fabric. Tack on different positions. Here the tack was done at the bottom and at the top. In all your tacking, ensure to conceal your stitches as much as possible. Zip up the dress and this project is complete. If this tutorial was helpful, please drop a comment, like, share and subscribe. Don't forget to turn on your notification bell for more videos. Bye.